My name is Paul, and I am going to be teaching you a mantra that I've been living by for the past bunch of years, and that I've taught to a lot of people, and they've seen a lot of success with. I've just had conversations with, I've had this conversation a million times with people, but I've never really given a presentation on it. But when people implement this in their lives, they seem to have a lot of success, and it's also a really effective way to build on your team and take things back from what you learn to build on your team and build your culture. I'm just going to kick this off with a little fun fact, and I apologize for how much I'm going to be looking at my phone. My speaker notes are on here. But, we spend about 2,000 hours of every year at work. And when we're not at work, we're often thinking about work. This is basically saying that most of our mental capacity is spent at work. So, that being said, work should be awesome. If you want a happy life, work should be great for you. It should be a really fun experience, somewhere that you're excited to go. It should be hard work, and it shouldn't be easy, but it should be a lot of fun to do. It should be something that you care about. I'm a firm believer that if you make work awesome for yourself and for the rest of your team, that you're going to have a much happier career and ultimately a happier life. Also, happy ski season opening day, everybody. Basins open. I'm going to be there tomorrow. See you on the slopes. You also know that I say and a lot. Stop. Well, if you get bored, just count how many times I'm trying to stop doing that. So, Paul Cullen Rowe. I am an adventure sports junkie. This is a picture of me snowboarding down St. Mary's Glacier in June. That's my little dog, too. She was riding with me. Her name is Bucket, and she is a little goofball. Super fun, and everybody likes seeing dogs. My mission in life is to make everybody's life a little bit more awesome. And hopefully you guys, that happens with you guys as a result of today. And my role, I am a software engineer at a digital consulting firm called Skookum right here in Denver, and I love it there. The fact that I love it there and I still live by this mantra, you should take something from that. This is just because you're happy, you still can always be there. Skookum is awesome, and we are hiring. If you fit any of these positions and like what you hear, come talk to me. A couple of our accolades: we were the #2 top place to work in the Charlotte Gazette and the #1 best work-life balance, and that one's really important to me. And I'm not kidding, we deserve both of those awards. I'm also going to dispel some things here. If you're asking this question, you already have the answer. So that's not what this interview is about. This conversation is about. I'm not going to convince anybody that you should go out and interview so that you can get out of your shitty situation. If that's what you're looking for, then go. Nobody's stopping you. In this conversation, we're going to keep an attitude of positivity. We're looking for how you can set yourself up for success. I'm not going to tell you to leave your job. I'm usually going to tell you the opposite. I'm going to tell you that you can learn things that you can take back to your team today. Hiring managers, I promise I'm not telling your team to leave. This is a real confidence thing, and you have to have a lot of faith in your people to kind of live by this. I just promise that I'm not telling everybody to leave, but if you implement this with your team, I promise that you will have a really positive culture shift. So let's kick this off. Get to my right spot in my slides here. All right, so you alone are responsible for positioning yourself for success and making your life awesome. Nobody's going to do it for you. You have to go out and grab it. Don't pursue happiness, create it. It's really, really risky for you to sit back and wait for good things to happen to you. You might get that promotion. You might get that new opportunity or jump on that new project, but you really don't know if that's going to happen. You're taking a gamble. What you can do is set yourself up for success and grab opportunities yourself. So that's what we're doing here. We're trying to set ourselves up for success and give ourselves the best options that we can grab at any point. But before you start interviewing, you got to get an interview. So, keys to success to getting an interview. In your current career, in your current position, always be keeping track of the problems that you're running into and how your team is going about solving them and what your role is within that. If you can keep track of this, put that on your LinkedIn. Watch your LinkedIn bios grow like crazy. The more details that you have about the positions that you've held, the better you're going to, the better success that you're going to find when somebody's looking at your profile. If your profile says, I'm a designer, sick. That's about all the information. They have no idea what you actually designed, what you actually did, and you're not helping anybody. Set yourself up for success. Put all of your problems on LinkedIn and your resume, and let them figure out, oh, he solved our problem before. That's going to help you. And then leverage your community. Go out and try to find places that you can interview in areas that you want to get into. If you've always wanted to get into mobile apps but you really haven't had the opportunity, go interview at a mobile company. See what they're doing. See what they're teaching their employees, or they want the problems that they want their employees to be solving. Then you can go back and learn yourself and set yourself up for success in case you want to make that move, or your company decides to get into that category yourself. Or you set yourself up, your company up, to get into that category. So, why interview if you're already happy? You love your job, you love your folks, you love your boss, you love your manager, you love your culture, you go out and do fun things. There's a lot of growth and promises coming your way. There's a lot of really good things happening. Why should you still go out and interview at other companies? It's a little counterintuitive. I'm just going to give you the Spark Notes version so you kind of know what we're going to get into and see the theme here. So, for just employees, first thing is validating yourself. Understand who you are and what your value is, not just to your company, but to other companies. Figure out what your level is. Learn what you need to learn. Understand from somebody else what you're missing out on. If you are one of 5 developers on a team and you are fantastic on that team and you are contributing like crazy, if you're just only exposed to that environment, you don't know what else is out there. So if you need to pick something else up, or you need to find another job at some point because of some unfortunate circumstance, you're only limited to that environment. You want to go out there and figure out what everybody else knows. You want to build a book of opportunities, and that's a really, really big point. You don't want to be in a position where you don't have any options. You always want to have a handful of options at any given point. And I'm going to get into that a little bit later in some big detail. You can improve your existing workplace from the things that you like about other companies. If there's something that draws you there, there's a reason. Bring it back. And then, for hiring managers, do we have any hiring managers in here? Who's building teams in here? Okay, that's all right. So for hiring managers, then you can take this back to the hiring managers that you work with. For hiring managers, you get all of this for yourself. Plus, you understand competing companies' offerings. So you understand what everybody else is selling. What are they swaying candidates with? You discover trends and practices. What is everybody else using? There's new technology coming out every day. What is everybody else implementing? We all run into the same problems. How are they solving? And then once you've kind of cleared the fog of war and you understand what the whole playing field is, how can you shine out above the rest? How can you draw every good candidate to your company? So, first point, validate yourself. Number 1 is benchmarking your skills. We can get positive reinforcement from our teams and our managers all the time, but a third party is always going to give you a brutally honest version of what your level is. They're going to tell you, we can't take you at a senior level because you're not performing at that for what we need. And if you hear that over and over again, then that's okay. That means that you have some more work to do. And you start finding out what you need to do to get up to that level. You start level setting among your peers. They tell you, these interviews are going to tell you exactly where you stand and kind of help you. if you are starting to like really crush interviews at mid-level positions or higher level positions, you can go and interview higher. That means that they see something in you that you don't see in yourself. If you are knocking out every interview, you're not taking a big enough leap. You should take a bigger leap and see how you can grow. And once you start getting turned down, start finding out why you're getting turned down and what you need to learn and where you need to grow. And then, this is a big one that all of us have a question about, is what is my value? What is my dollar value? Money isn't everything, but it does help establish some security, and it's dangerous to leave money on the table. If you understand what your monetary value is in the marketplace, not just in your company, you can use that to build your own value within your team. And if you're really getting shortchanged, then you can figure out a better opportunity for yourself. But you won't find that out if you don't go and ask the question. Second big point is learning what you need to learn. So what is everybody else doing? What new technology is everybody starting to implement to solve some problems? What old technology are they using despite how old it is? So you might have an attitude. I know when I was getting into a deeper career in enterprise, I did not want to learn C# because I was like, that's old, I know it's everywhere, but it's old, I don't care. But honestly, if I wanted to be in enterprise technology, I just needed to know it. And so, and I wouldn't have found that out if I didn't start interviewing and asking the question and getting turned down because, hey, guess what? Like, you don't have this very basic skill that everybody else needs. So you start learning what everybody else is using and how to set yourself up as the best candidate. Then once you level set, once you figure out your level among your peers, you can start understanding what roles you can grow into. So if you know that you can be a team lead, but you're not there yet, you can start asking what things in your company that you can do to start reaching those levels, because it's been validated that you can do it if you land an interview somewhere else for that role. Third is building your book of opportunities. This is the most important thing that you can do for yourself in basically anything. You always want to have a bunch of options at hand at all times and always be churning that book of options so that you always have the best opportunity. You always want to have a safety net because honestly, we can't predict the future. Your company could be in the best position right now, but you don't know what's going to happen in 6 months. The rug could get pulled out from under you for any number of reasons. To give you an example, I work with Skookum now, but before Skookum I was working with a software company that took me about 6 months to actually start, of interviewing to actually start the job. And then 4 months in, and when I was interviewing, they're saying everything's on the up and up, everything's great, we've got a huge number of amazing investors and people who can leverage us in the industry. All sounded great. 4 months later, the company fell apart and they shut down every office. And that I couldn't have known that. And had I not continued to interview and continued to have my opportunities on the table, I would have been out on my ass and back at the 6-month interview process again. So you don't want to be in a position of desperation, only where you're just picking up the first option that gets presented to you just because you need a paycheck. Acting in desperation, you interview in desperation, everybody feels it, it's not a good thing. So the other thing about building a book of opportunities is you start figuring out what's important to you. Not just that somebody's going to send you a paycheck, but what do they have as a company? So for me, what's important to me is fun and changing work. I get bored when I sit on a project for too long and I kind of want to start moving on other stuff. So I like having a lot of fun and changing work. I like having comfortable pay. I'm not great about finances, and so I don't want that to be a concern if I spend a little much on like 1 month. I want to be comfortable, and I don't want to have too many worries about that. And I need flexibility. I told you I'm an adventure sports junkie. I want to be able to, if we get 3 feet of powder in the mountains, I want to be able to drop and go and do that. As long as I'm getting my stuff done, I want to be able to go and live my life and do fun things. I want to be able to go on a trip to do a wakeboarding competition. I want a company to be flexible to support the way I want to live my life, and in turn, I do that for them. that little blue star is where you want to be. And the more opportunities that you find, the more little blue stars that you're going to find. So, we're all nerds. I've got a little graphic for you. So, you get fired today. The company loses all of its money somehow because it doesn't matter. So these are all the companies in Denver. Each little dot is a company in Denver. And your red dots are bad matches. Your green dots are great matches. And your blue dots are your perfect fit. If you get fired today and you start interviewing and you're just looking for the next opportunity, what do you think the chances are that you're going to land on one of those green or blue dots? It's really slim. You could. It could be great. But if you're starting to build up this book of opportunities early, and this situation happens that nobody saw coming, there's a much better chance that you're going to have one of these green or blue dots in your, let's say, in your book of opportunities that you can go up and say, this is the perfect place that I want to work. Where you work could have been one of these blue opportunities. The last thing is, don't assume it's a fast process. Interviewing takes a while. To give you an example, last year I gave a talk at DVLP Denver about how to build an entirely automated t-shirt business using Zapier, an automation software. And then like maybe 2 months later, or whenever the videos came out, I grabbed the video and I sent it to Zapier and I was like, I love your software, I love your company, I am a perfect fit for these 3 roles. And it was like, this is so easy. I got this, no problem. And I did. It was a perfect fit. But they contacted me 9 months later. If I had started that process when I told you my company 2 companies ago fell apart, if I had started that process then, when I needed it, I would have been out of my ass. I would have been in a really bad situation for 9 months. So you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. You definitely don't want to assume that your best opportunity is going to just come like that and fall in your lap. The last big point is improving your existing workplace. So when you go out and interview, when you pick a company to go interview with, there's a reason why you picked them. What's that reason? What are they doing that you can bring back to your team? How can you make your place as enticing as all these other places that you're talking about and you're talking to? What kind of projects are they working on? What's their team like? What do they like to do? Who are they as people? What interests do they have? Try to set these things up for yourself and bring them back to your team. Just catching up on the notes here. And then the other thing is we all run into the same problems at some point. Same kind of problems, just different solutions. So ask the question, tell them, we ran into this problem. How did you guys solve this? Have you run into this problem? What problems does your company have? Because I guarantee your team is going to run into it at some point, and ask them how they solve it. You start learning things about other companies, and then you can actually bring that back to your own team and make your place amazing. And now for the hiring managers. Hiring managers, this is important for hiring managers to implement in their teams and also be going out and interviewing themselves. The reason why? You want to figure out how you stack up against your competition, and that means your competition for candidates. Who is grabbing the best team members that could be joining your team? I like to use this little metaphor. Are you a plane or are you a rocket ship? Is your company a plane or a rocket ship? A plane will take off and it will get you somewhere else and it'll do a pretty decent job at it. The experience kind of gets a little shittier every year, but for the most part it does the job. Or are you a rocket ship? It does all the same things a plane does, but it's space. And there's a lot of future there. There's a lot of big future there. Is your company a plane or a rocket ship? If it's a plane, how can you turn it into a rocket ship? As a team builder, our job is to find the smartest people and keep them. How do you keep them? You make their life awesome. Why would they leave if their life with you is awesome? If their life there is awesome, they start caring about what you're doing because they don't want to screw up an awesome life. They start being passionate about your projects and your company. They don't mind dropping everything on a weekend to go solve a problem that a client has or a customer or a user has, because they don't want to see that get screwed up. They don't want anything messing with their good life. This is the most important thing that you can do for your team and your teammates. The other thing is you should be aware of what you're up against, what other companies are selling. And that way you can take all of those things and prove why you are the best opportunity. How can you shine above the rest? Basically, if some developer over there gets fired, why would they turn around and be like, all right, first place I'm going to apply is Skookum. You want to create you want to establish yourself in the marketplace as the best place to be. So for everybody, my challenge, and it's a lofty challenge, and it's a scary challenge, it requires a lot of faith in your team and your company, but encourage your team to go out and interview. The way that this is going to work is by promising that you are going to build your company based on the findings from what they've discovered. You're going to figure out what they liked about those other companies, and then you're going to tell them to bring it back, and we're going to start implementing them as a team. This is not going to be just a team thing. You're going to get your whole company to buy in on it. It's difficult, but if you make this point of making the life at your company awesome, there's no way they can turn that down. So give yourself an opportunity to make life at work awesome. Get everybody to buy in on it, and life is going to be super happy for all of you. That's pretty much it. It's not a long talk. My name's Paul, and I work with Skookum, and to me, Skookum is a big blue rocket ship. Any questions?
Isn't it expensive for both sides, for people, other companies that are, like looking to bring in talent to interview them, for your company to let you go? Like, are you saying if it's on the premise of making your company stronger, that it's worth it, but for the other company that's being interviewed,
yeah. So
they're wasting their time and resources for someone that's really not interested in working for them? It's kind of like a sham, isn't it?
It's tough, right? So the question was, isn't this very cost and labor intensive for both sides? And it is. It's what's happening here is if you're interviewing a lot of candidates, let's say this concept like totally takes off in Denver, and everybody starts interviewing everybody, and a lot of people don't really have a lot of intention of joining the company that they're interviewing with. That's okay. But what happens is the people who are interviewing candidates start learning what candidates they're really looking for. Exposure is what's going to help you decide what you actually need. And it's going to continue for both sides, building the book of opportunities for, so as a hiring manager, it would build my book of opportunities for candidates. So if I don't need an Android developer today, but I might need one in 6 months, and I talked to somebody 6 months ago that was awesome, and then you can turn around and try to encourage them to join your team. For a candidate, it can be cost and labor intensive to go talk to other companies, but what you're doing is you're really setting yourself up with options. So you're setting up your safety net. You're setting up your own success later. So it's an investment.
So you like your company, right? And so you're still going to like other interviews, and like how do you say you like got the job at the other place that you like also? How do you you just tell them I can't work right now? How do you keep that opportunity? Wouldn't it just pass you by?
It's happened to me a lot. I've had to turn down opportunities more than a few times, and during those times, I tend to find out more about myself than had I not been offered the job. When I get the offer and then I tell them, no, I can't, I'm in the middle of a big project that I want to see through, I like where I'm at, and things are starting to get better. Whatever the reason that you give that is your no, and be honest with them, because that helps them too. But whatever reason it is, you in my experience, they tend to try to convince you. They either stack up your value. So I went from a few years ago, I went from like a $90,000 offer to a $120,000 offer in the same, once I told them no. So that's a 30% increase in an offer, and that established my value now, instead of at 90, at 120. And now, when I go out on interviews, at that point I could go out and turn around and say, my number's 120. I know that I can get it. You don't know if you don't ask. And once you tell them no, that's when you start finding out, well, what are people willing to do to get me on their team? It's a little, like, it's a weirdly narcissistic kind of thing, but it's valuable.
So the proposal you said for, like, as a hiring manager, like, send your team out and have an interview, I think that's actually really interesting. I think could be a really cool, like, building thing. Mm-hmm. But then on the flip side, though, for the candidate that's going around interviewing several different places, sort of like what he was saying, and let's say you're going through the process, you have a company that you really, really like. Turns out you don't like them as much as where you're at, right? But you really like them, and they'd be a great place that if something fell apart here, that's where you want to go. Once you get to that point, and they've given you the offer, and you say no, how do you, I'm just curious how you manage that relationship to keep it a safety net contact, and not that the perception on their side is like, this guy went all the way through until the very end, and he was one of our last two candidates, and now he just said no. You know what I mean? How is that a safety net and not a blacklist, I guess is my question, right? In terms of like, oh, this guy, I've heard about him, he goes around.
Yeah.
What's that?
Burning your bridges.
Yeah, like, oh, I heard about this guy. He goes and interviews a bunch of places and he never goes anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Like, no, seriously, right?
Yeah, that's true.
I
mean, I'm taking a big risk of giving this presentation.
No. Yeah, well, that's true. No, but I think it's a very interesting concept, right? But so then, so there must be a way that you subtly handle that, because you still have those connections. So how have you managed that conversation to keep it a safety net and not like a burnt bridge? Right?
Yeah, it's being honest. Like, I mean, maybe not tell them like, hey, I go out and interview everywhere just to figure out all this information, but tell them why you like where you are. Tell them, like, this is why I'm sticking around. I am working on a great project. My team is really great, and we're moving into this. I'm sorry, it's going to take a little bit longer, but I really do want to keep this opportunity open in the future, because I love who you guys are as a team. I love whatever the project is, whatever the big strengths are that brought you there in the first place. That's going to be what keeps your bridge open, and communicating that to them, and telling them that there's also other reasons. I mean, we're all humans. We got reasons to stick around, and the more honest you are with other people, the more they'll appreciate that. And that's not 100%, but it tends to be the case.
Do you tell them up front that you are not sure that you want to leave, that you want to? So do you tell them up front that you don't really want to leave?
Yeah. No. I mean, well, yes and no. Depends on the conversation. It's a sales strategy. You're selling yourself. So if they're trying to bring you on, which they are, you say, I think, there's a certain amount of language that you can use to make yourself a more in-demand candidate. And so you can either use that language to be upfront and say, I'm not sure if I'm really going to accept this, whatever, and they can either take that as, well, we really want this guy. If your skill set is just killer, then that for them says, oh, well, we've got to put something good on the table for him. They can also take it the other way. I don't know if I'm going to, I don't really know if I want to pursue this opportunity or really jump yet. They could say that as, well, we're not going to waste their time. So it's really reading it. It's reading the situation.
It's just my concern that you squeeze every bit out of them and then you say no. It just feels bad. I mean, it feels like not something that
you're not gonna hit a home run every time. Like there are gonna be times where you'll accidentally burn a bridge, or you'll accidentally end a conversation too early or something, and it's bound to happen. You're not like put yourself out there. You give yourself an opportunity to fail. You're not gonna learn anything about yourself, and if you don't. And honestly, if you get to that endpoint 10 times, you've experienced that endpoint 10 times. You might have screwed that endpoint up 10 times, and now you know how to fix it. So what you're doing is you're teaching yourself how to interview. You're teaching yourself what's out there, and you're basically setting yourself up for success when you need it.
So like ballpark, how often do you interview, and also like in your current role, do you like hide the fact from your current employer that you're interviewing, or do you kind of share what you are?
Well, meet the Skunk team.
It's encouraged for everyone, but like, do you tell people like, oh, I'm going out for an interview, or do you just kind of like say, I'm just taking the day off? Like,
It's, it really depends. It's a good question. We're comfortable. I think that the more you talk about it, the more comfortable you get. And the more that you really, you do come back and say, I liked this about this company, I want to implement it here, the more faith you build in it. So like, trust the process and execute on that trust. Don't break the trust. Like, don't go out and, if you get a better offer, like if you get an offer that's like 25% higher than what you are, then you can go back to your manager and say, hey, so I was talking to these guys, and they said that my value's here. I had another interview like 3 months ago that also said my value's here. How can we work together to get that number up? What can I do to provide more value for the company? Come back honestly and with the intention of building your own value, and it's it's an uncomfortable conversation, but it's a conversation. It's going to help everybody. Someone had their hand up for a while.
Yeah, you partially answered that. It's like, how do you have that conversation with your manager? If the idea was yours, you go up there like, I'm going to start interviewing out there. But,
You should. So there's two facets to this. One is just walking up and talking to them. But if your manager takes it really bad, like let's say whoa, you've been interviewing, and they talk to their guy and they're like, we got to get this guy out of here. He doesn't want to be here anymore. And they didn't really capture what you're trying to do here. If they take that and they just can you for that, which unlikely situation, super unlikely. Hopefully you've been doing this enough that you've built the book of opportunities already. So, if the worst case does happen, you have somewhere to go. You have places that you've talked to already. You and leverage your community. Talk to other companies and say hey, I don't know. You can be straight with them too. Say, I don't want to leave now, but should anything happen, I'd like to talk to your company because you guys are doing cool things, and I'd like to have you guys as a place that I could go should something happen here. Honesty, just transparency in this whole process is the biggest thing. It takes a lot of trust in yourself and your team, and for managers, it takes a lot of trust in your managers and the people that you're sending out to go interview. But you always want to come back with the intention of how can I make where I am better? How can I make my current life more awesome?
How would you go about notifying them that if you don't get the job, you want feedback?
You want feedback?
About how you can improve yourself next time, or why they didn't like you.
Okay, so how can you get how can you ask them for feedback on what you can improve on?
Yeah.
So generally it's just asking. If some companies are totally cool with it, and usually it means reaching out to the people that you interviewed with directly. And during the interview, you can say hey, I don't want, I'm not going to bug you if this doesn't work out, but can I get your contact information just to follow up if this does? I just want to make myself the best candidate going forward. People are generally open to it. I mean, we're all people. So what would you ask? If somebody asked you, if you were interviewing somebody, what would you want them to ask you to get feedback? What would you just give it to them if they said hey, do you mind letting me know why? If you would, perfect, send that email. If you think it takes a little bit of convincing, then just think about it. Everybody who's on the other side of the table when you're in an interview is just like you. They are uncomfortable, they're nervous, they're not sure they're picking the right person, and ultimately, they're going to have to go through the same process that you are right now in the interview process. So I'm sure they would appreciate feedback too. So just reciprocate.
I have a comment to make about that.
Yeah.
What I did last time I interviewed is that I gave the company my feedback about the process.
Yeah.
And then a lot of them just turned back around and was like, well, thank you. Like, we really appreciate this. And I started the dialogue. I
Yeah.
got a lot of feedback from them in return.
Yeah. I mean, everybody's trying to make ourselves better, whether that's the company or you as a person. Do it. Like, give feedback, give honest feedback, and friendly feedback. Never be combative about it. Don't demand it. But just try to be friendly as a person. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. 90% of the jobs that you interview for, you're not going to get. So just be honest with the people and say, hey, this part of the process was not great. This part of the process was amazing. Loved it. If you have those, definitely send it to them. And then just keep the conversation going. A no could be a yes later, especially if you keep the conversation going.
I have a comment and a question.
Yeah.
So, I feel like people who are really worried about going into an interview process, keep in mind that they are interviewing multiple people. You can take a look of if you're interviewing multiple companies.
Yep.
It might not be all in one group. Today, you're interviewing, but throughout your course of your lifetime.
Yeah.
It's just a different, I feel like a lot of people feel like they owe these companies something. You don't owe them that. You owe them exactly what they're giving you, which is seeing what your options are.
Yeah.
And then my question is, do you have any recommendations for interviewing at companies before they're even hiring? So reaching out to people when they're not hiring necessarily for a position that you're qualified for, but you know that you're interested in that company.
Yep. So the best way to do that is to reach out to team members directly. And that is actually probably the best thing that you can do when you're trying to establish contacts in general. But reaching out to team members directly and figuring out what they're doing, have lunch with them, what kind of problems are they solving, and just establish a relationship. We're all professionals and everybody's looking to get lunch with somebody. So grab them and say like, hey, I just want to talk with you guys. I want to get into design. I've never done design before, and you guys seem to have a great design team. I'd love to talk to them and just see what they're doing. Everybody has lunch available, so just use it, like leverage it, and talk to people directly. If you can't get in touch with somebody, leverage your network. You know somebody by extension, and you'll get there. If there's a 70-person company or a 7-person company, you know somebody who works there in some way.
Sorry, this is my second time.
It's all good.
It's kind of more of a statement because this all seems so counterintuitive.
Yeah.
It's hard to process it, but then I'm also wondering, like, well, if this works in the workplace, why can't it work in like dating?
So on the summary of this talk, it's like the first 2 words are like dating. You don't want to take the first opportunity that lands. Your laugh is bad. But I mean, I guess it's a little that's a little touchy. You're playing with emotions. It's counterintuitive because America has a culture of opacity in the workplace. You're not supposed to talk about your salary with your coworkers. Why? Like, you're not supposed to talk about what other companies are doing or why this other place is better, and you're not supposed to discuss like you got a bonus but this other person didn't. Those should be transparent conversations. There's a reason for all of them, and it's probably a perfectly innocent and legitimate reason for one person to have a higher salary than another person or whatever, but we have a culture of opacity. What this is doing is this is trying to build transparency back into the workplace.
Just want to comment on your last statement. I came from a country where it's normal to discuss your salaries. I'd rather not. After being there and here, I'd rather not. Believe me, it introduces very strange dynamics in the workplace.
Yes.
I don't know. It's just my take because.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, and it's actually good to hear that from somebody with experience in it. But yeah, I've seen it both ways. I've seen transparency not work out so well, and I think that it really comes with the spirit of the workplace. If the spirit of the workplace is to tear down, like for some team members are just tearing down based on any negative thing that they hear about the place, or they have a lower salary than somebody, and so they're just going to start picking apart the company. Like that's not good. That's a toxic environment. I think that transparency really succeeds when everybody has a spirit of trying to build the place. It's tough. I mean, it's here or there. I've seen. I mean, at Scoop we have a pretty good life with it, and other companies where I've seen the opacity just like you're used to. As soon as somebody finds out information that wasn't on the table before, they get real mad. So it kind of goes both ways. I think you had a question in the back, right?
Oh, I was looking at, I've got multiple jobs, right, under this from and a lot of times it's, buddy, you meet here, or, co-worker or whatnot, and those are great relationships to have.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when you first get together, maybe the timing doesn't work, but you never know. I've had people call me a year later, oh, hey, I have something for you, you failed on that.
Yep.
And those are super, super valuable connections to keep up.
Yep. I totally agree and echo that. Networking is like one of the most important things you can do. This is just a form of that. Building your relationships and building your own community so that when you need it, you can leverage it. When I moved to Colorado three and a half years ago or so, and when I first got out here, I was going to about 3 to 4 meetups a week, and just trying to immerse myself in the community and understand who was out there, what people are using, and how we can help each other. Remember that the relationships that you build are not one-sided. You're not just asking for their help, and that's it. You want to be able to provide something for them too. You want to be able to help people out, and the more you're helping other people, the more willing they are to help you. So that's why giving feedback, talking to other places, giving as much feedback as you can, and being friendly is probably the most important thing that you do.
Since you have a job and you're happy at,
Yeah.
how do you target specific companies to interview them? Or you said you're still in the national where you are,
Yeah.
do you just apply for any call position, or just these target specific companies? And I had another question.
Yep.
When you go through the interview process and you see the benefits and perks and you compare that to what you have, how do you bring that back to your company? And do they add those benefits to the deal, or is that just kind of hey, FYI, this is what other people are doing, and then
Yeah.
does that actually change what you're offered at your current company?
Yeah. So I'll answer the second question first. And I might forget the first question, so please remind me of it. Second question, how do you bring it back and do they implement it? It's going to take work. Nothing is instant. And you have to be willing to go through that growing period with them. There might be situations where the company just straight up can't meet it. That's fair too. There's only so much you can do. But what you can do is try to bring good ideas back. You're trying to bring back growth ideas. If you start finding out that every company in Denver has Friday off, except yours, and if your company just can't provide that because you're a Friday company, you have all your calls on Friday or something like that, then that's something that they can't meet. But there might be something else that they can do. There might be another way that they can try to bring that same sort of value for the employee back into the company. So you try to work with them. You understand limitations, but you work with them. Your first question was, how do you target companies? Since I'm happy with where I am now, how do I target companies that I'm going to interview with? Often it's things that I use, Slack, Zapier, companies that I've worked with that I really like, and I'd love to learn how the inside of that works. Companies that have that have similar problems or problems that we're going to run into. So we're a consulting firm right now. It might be valuable for me to talk to a large consulting firm to understand what they're doing and how their teams are built and how their processes are structured so that I can bring that back and help my company scale. Is there, if I'm working on a healthcare project right now, and that's a scaling project. So they're working with millions of requests a day. So I might talk to another company that works on that scale and in the same industry and ask them how they solve problems. So you can call this an interview or just like a lunch conversation, but what you're trying to do is get them to open their playbook just a little bit so that you can understand how other people are solving their problems. Anyone else?
Yeah, I guess I have more of a testimonial than a comment.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of happenstance had that with my last job change of entering in it. But the reason why I say it is these conversations can feel really weird because we don't have them,
Yeah.
and also because it can feel like you're manipulative. It's all about setting the expectations right from the outset. And that was something I made really clear in my last job transition of, hey, this would require relocation. I like where I'm at, but I'm interested in knowing the company for the future.
Mm-hmm.
And that set the right stage that I was very open and candid. I ended up absolutely loving the company for a variety of reasons and seeing a lot of things that were better. But I set the outset that, if they felt miffed by that, I was very clear and transparent with my thought process. So if you can set those right expectations, it can make it a lot more comfortable.
Yeah. Yeah, being honest is always the best policy. If you're expecting transparency from them, you also should be transparent. If you are just not comfortable getting an offer from them right now, you just don't really want to have the no conversation, but you do want to establish a relationship for the future, tell them, hey, I'm looking for something for the future. I don't know what's going to happen. I might move to California in 2 years, and I'd like to establish some relationships early. So the more honest you are, the better things are going to turn out for you. But the biggest thing is getting out there and setting yourself up with options. And we're about done. So thanks for coming, guys.